Right, if we're lucky, this should be live on YouTube now. Just trying to make sure. Well, it says live, but it's not really getting any output. Oh wait, no, there we go. Cool. And Twitch will be live as well. Sweet. Let me just get this wee keyboard out of the way. Okay, so where we left off in the last tutorial was just explaining how to blur things. And since then, I've gotten a new mic. We'll see if it's any good, and hopefully it won't drop out as much. In this tutorial, or this part of the tutorial rather, we're going to be looking at which parts of the existing nodes we're going to take the data masks from, which we will then use later for making the splat maps and the vertex colors. But there's a trick to all of this, and you have to know which ones you want to use and how you can tell where in the chain which of these nodes you're actually going to use. Because if you change the terrain so much, like we have fractal terraces, which makes rock, convector softens it, then we do a stratifier to completely change it, then combine these other ones, then we do a loop to erosion like 3 or 5 times, we do a recurve to slant things, then more erosion, followed by more erosion, followed by more erosion, followed by more erosion, and all of this other stuff. So obviously if we pick something early, like the masks from this first erosion, especially when it's being looped, but we have other erosions going on as well, and other nodes we're going to draw from later on, that's going to look terrible. So I did it, like, copy everything here, but at the moment I'm just going to show you how to do it one by one, and just so you get the idea, then I will just bring all these up and I'll explain how we will bake and all the other stuff. So let's look at the erosion, because actually, let's look at the blurred terrain, because it's going to be quite a difference from the blurred terrain and even just earlier nodes. If we look here, especially when we're looking at things that are later modified further with other erosions, like this wizard node here, looks very different from that erosion node. Look at that wizard node again, we go to the blur, it's quite different. It's similar, but still very different, so we want to be careful with what we use. Same with the fractal terraces. Luckily, fractal terrace has a very defined shape, which is overall kept later on, as we can see here. And it's okay to use some of the fractal terrace data because it's basically making rock out of everything. And the layers mask output here is basically where there's rock. If we erode it and it's already different, it's okay to use that for the vertex colors and some of it for the splat maps, because there's going to be rock covered by dirt anyway. Naturally that happens. So that's okay to keep and use. So what we want to do is make sure we have the last node in the chain, our blur node. We just set to 0 power because we want the most slight blur possible. We don't actually want to make an overall blurred terrain. We're just trying to get rid of the pits and the jags. And a blur at 0, after doing all the aperture stuff, where you expand and then shrink to the same amount with the same filter. A very slight blur, the slightest we can have. A blur at a power of 0 is how we achieve that. Make sure it's set to fast. There are other ones, but in my experience, genuinely, just fast with 0 power is going to be used in every situation of every graph, and all the smooth ones just, they change too much or they're too weird. You don't get all the details. You get some better but some worse. Blur, 0 power, set to fast with 1 iteration. That leaves the least work for you to touch up afterwards in your game engine. So make sure it's pinned. And the hotkey for that is G, but you can right click, pin as underlay. So for the erosion, it's because this is the latest erosion in our chain. As you can see here, we've got several. So we've got one here, which is looped 5 times actually, so we can't really draw anything from that. Another here, thermal's a type of erosion. Fluvial, anastomosis, we have a fold thingy, but that's not erosion. We've got wizard and sea, and then another erosion. So what we're going to do is basically take all of the last erosion nodes masks, and to avoid a bug, because when we bake, what can happen is if you don't have some nodes padding some of them, it just freaks out and it picks the wrong ones, or it picks the exact node, which you then can't use because it's big, so you have to unbake it. It's just a lot of pain. And the way around it is we take our node, which here is the where, we use a node that doesn't do anything. Clamp's good for that. Don't try the utility nodes for this, it breaks on baking. Trust me, I've tried. Clamp, we're not going to change anything because we want it to be the exact same. And then an effects, which we'll actually use because effects allows us to see it. But having that clamp, that spare just dummy node, is going to save so much pain. Trust me on this. And we're going to shrink it with F11 because it's useless, it doesn't matter. It's just a dummy. And then with effects, we're actually going to see what the data is. So to do that, what we're going to do is try out ABS first to make sure there's data. There isn't, it would be pure black. Since it's pure white, there's actually quite a lot of data, like all over the terrain. The fact that everything's white means there's data everywhere for us to use, which is cool. Turn off ABS. And the first three are the ones you're going to use. You might use ABS a bit, but not this stage where we're just trying to see what we've got. So equalizer really brings everything up, but it's really strong because you can see, even though we get these nice details here, especially if we just zoom in a bit, that's quite nice. We like that. If we look over here, that's just pure white, just too much. You can see that's actually just clipping into white at 100% or 255. So let's try level. That's better. Let's try log. Let's take off level. Let's try putting on equalize. Okay, that's too much, especially if we put a level on. Let's see that. It's basically the same as the equalize. So we'll get rid of the equalize, put the level on. We might do some other stuff later, but for now, this will do just to preview. And then with that, what you should use is a route node, not a checkpoint. Things have been buggy with checkpoints having portals on them. It's a lot of jargon, don't worry. So if we have our route, and we'll rename this, and this is important, you want to make sure you name your node so you can actually keep track of everything we're going on, everything that's going on for what we're using. Forgot to do a bit of English there. So we have the erosion where, we have our route. What we're going to do is name it first before we make the portal, because you get a prompt otherwise if you do it the other way around. Let's not do that, because that just wastes time. So erosion where, rename, and then we're going to make a portal. You're going to be wondering, what is a portal? So with a portal, we are able to connect nodes without having to have these lines. Let me show an example. So with clamp, we can just do that to show it, but we could also, by right-clicking, well, no, not right-clicking, what do we do? Left-click, drag from the mask node, or any node thingy here. When we put portals, we see a list of them. Now, I've got a bunch down here, all these portals and things. So don't worry about that too much if you don't have all of them that you're seeing here, because you won't. But what we made was an erosion where portal, so one of these. Do that, you can see, look, we're connected to a node even though there's nothing there. And let's disconnect it using the, whether we do it, click, then X, yeah. Go to the mask one. X is a hotkey that allows you to see all the inputs and outputs that you want to disconnect from it, rather than having to click on a line, press delete, which can get sketch, or even with portals, which you can't at all, because there's no line to click. So let's instead do a portals erosion where. See? Even though there's no wire to connect them, it's connected to the portal so we can see what's there. And this also allows us to make other graphs. So we can do this. Let's add a new graph. We'll call this one Splat Rock. And now we want to get that node we made a portal of, but we can't do anything because, you know, it's over in this graph, not this one. If we just use the portals, well, look, there we go. And then we can do stuff to that if we wanted to, just as if it was actually there. This is just an example. You don't really want to replicate this unless you're making some sort of Tonic Trouble style game. That's a blast to the past. But yeah, that shows us what portals are good for. You can make connections without having to click and drag. You can even do it across different graphs. Great. Anyway, let's delete this. We'll get back to it, but for now. And you want to do this again for all of them. So we're just going to copy, Control-C, Control-V, because it's easier. Press F11, bring them up there. Control-C, Control-V, select them all, F11, put them here. Just do that, saves us time, do that. Okay, so let's have a look. We have available to us erosion wear, erosion deposit, and erosion flow. Let's have a look at that. Okay, erosion flow is an interesting one. What if we go on equalize? And if we get rid of logarithmic, and we get rid of level, we just have logarithmic and then equalize. What about ABS? Either way, it's really cool. We'll put that onto an equalize for now. I'll get rid of the logarithmic. Or should we just keep it as is? That's a tough one. We'll keep it as level for now, because it's not so destructive. We don't have 100% white. Maybe there, but even so. It's easier to work with data that isn't already at the max or the lowest possible values, because then we can just take care of that after the fact. So that's the erosion deposit. Make another route. If you left click from a node as you drag it out, this wee menu will pop up. You can just directly type into it to get whatever node you want. It shows up here. Like if you wanted erosion, for example, but nah. Do another route. So this is the erosion deposit, so we'll name it that. Erosion deposit. And this is the erosion wear. Erosion wear. These are all very cool. Especially the flow, or in this case wear, looks just like flow. If you would use a flow node to generate the same thing, is really good for doing the vertex colors and where dirt should be. So with the vertex colors, you would use this to darken, because as you can see, it's where there are grooves and crevices, and you want to darken those to add more detail that isn't actually there. It will look like there's grooves and crevices. And if we were to use deposit, probably the same, because it's collecting at the bottom of our terrain. See here. Yeah. So that'd be good. That'd be another one we darken. Where? It's an interesting one. We probably separate that, but we'll leave that alone for now. Anyway, you do the same. Left click, drag from the output, click make portal, and we'll do that again. Yeah, you get the idea. And I'm just going to get rid of these because I've already done it before. You'll quickly get a big mess of them. Try to keep things in order. And making things tidy in each stage makes it so much more understandable and such less a nightmare to unscrew it up after you've already gone everything. Tidiness early on, as we've seen here, pays off. It makes it much easier and much more intuitive and much more enjoyable to work with your graph. So let's see another one. I'm taking 2 from here already, so let's do this again. We have a snowfall node. Let's check what the snow output looks like. And clamp's not doing anything. This is literally the exact thing that it's outputting before any post-processing. Looks quite interesting. We'd probably use this for a natural grass mask distribution for the splat map. Okay, so we'll keep that, do the same thing, clamp effects, and if we're not doing any effects now, we might want to later, and this makes it a lot easier to do. It's already having a node, so we don't have to screw everything. We can always just pick things off rather than reroute everything if we're not going to use it. We do the route, we call it snowfall, snow, do the make portal. Where is it? Am I blind? Yeah, I right clicked it. Make portal, there. Same thing here. We got the snows. What's that? The hard. No idea what it does. Looks like snow, but more of a threshold. I guess you could subtract it and use the hard for gravel, I guess. Let's see how that would look. No, I'm just curious. You don't have to do it. I just want to see what it looks like. Combine. We got the less and... Okay. So for combine, you want to have the first one is the thing you're going to subtract from. So the one with more data is going to go in first. The one with less will go in second. You can always just reorganize things, but I prefer to keep things in a range to how they are from the source node. And we're going to do a subtract here. Let's see what we end up with. That's quite interesting. This could very well be the gravel. Yeah, that's really cool. Actually, I want that. Let me, I'm gonna take this, actually. Let's see. In fact, what I'll do is I get rid of the effects because we're not using them. That was it? It's the other way around. Do swap inputs, but I find that gets really confusing, especially if you're coming back to the graph later. Even if it looks a bit worse to have them crisscrossing, it stops you again from confused. Can you literally follow the chain rather than wonder why? Why is it not looking how I should? Oh, because I had this ticked. Been there, done that, wasted a lot of time. Don't want to talk about it. So let's take this, add an effects to it, and we'll just shorten the combine with F11, do that, do a route. Up together, we've got this combine, we've got the effects, and we'll call this snowfall, snow. What would be a good way to put this? Because naming is important. We'll call it, let's see, subtracted, and we'll make that plural. Okay, and there are a few nodes we can use earlier on, particularly the fractal terraces layer nodes. And by the way, don't get too overwhelmed. If you're wondering how I know this, just without even looking at it, I've done this so many times. I've learned it. So you'll just have to check each one which looks close to the actual final terrain node, the blur. Because if it's too divergent, it'll just look weird. You can just tell at a glance. So don't use it. If it looks like it fits, it will fit. It's good enough. So let's have a look at what this one looks like. Clamp. So as you can see, it's mainly gray. It's kind of hard to see what's going on. So what we're going to do, another effects. I'm going to put an equalizer on it. Sometimes an equalizer might look bad, so you try a level or a log, or a level and a log, or a level and an equalizer, or a log and an equalizer, or an absolute, all that. It's just trial and error, really. Because this looks pretty interesting. I wonder what we could use this for. We could put on logarithmic. Maybe vertex colors? This is pretty cool. Let's take off the equalizer. Let's put on the levels. Take off the levels. What do we get? We take off the logarithmic. Do the levels and the equalizer. We'll just do logarithmic for now. And we do another route node. Let's get rid of these. Just to keep it tidy, because I'm just showing off at the moment. And I'll move this down with the others, the ones I've already got in this project. So I did all this beforehand in a previous tutorial video, but I really screwed up my mod mic with all the filters thinking it was perfect. Now it was unusable. So let's see, that got us our fractal terrace. So we'll name this fractal terraces layers. Because again, it just making all the portals have the same name as the actual data you want. Again, it helps you avoid getting confused and too bogged down in all these generic names, rather than having a bunch of route nodes like all of the ones I have here. If I was to just do another portal input, but all of this had the exact same name, you'd have no idea of which one's which. right? So always name your portals intuitively that tell you exactly what they are. Don't use any weird names that don't make sense, because that just throws you off. And this breaks the heads of newcomers, because the node you've renamed with that name doesn't exist in Gaea when we search for it. So you're just going to waste your own time and energy, and everyone else is doing that. Keep everything intuitive as similar as possible. And yeah, that's why. Because you've got a lot of route nodes. How many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if they're all called route, how do you know which one's the one you want? How would you know which route is wizard where if they're all named route? Seems obvious, right? Well, it took me a while. Let's see what else we got. So we got the sea. We don't really need that. We got thermal. Using that for anything? Apparently, cool. Using the where. See how that looks. Lamp. Then effects. Can't really see anything. Why is that combined? I wanted effects. There we go. Let's put on logarithmic. No difference. Put on level. Take off logarithmic. Don't ask me what these do. I just know they allow us to see DLs. I don't know the math behind it. Do an EQ. Take away off level. Take off logarithmic. Even though it's not for our final terrain, it still looks pretty similar because we iterated from that. Okay, we can keep the thermal. I would just keep it logarithmic for now. And maybe level. Yeah, level and logarithmic. Take off logarithmic. Keep it level for now. So what's the thermal where? Down here. Then we do another route node. You get the idea. Rename it. Thermal. Where was it? Was it deposit? It's where. Then we do the. Keep getting mixed up. Click drag on the output. Select make portal. All that. So it's the same thing. If it doesn't look like it matches up with the final terrain, don't use it. It's no use. It will just look really weird and bugged. So once you've done all that, you found all the nodes that you will be using, all the masks that look similar. You want to, early on, you want to get as many of the masks already available before you start needing them. Because if it turns out that later on you didn't need them, great. You just don't use them. You can even delete them later on once you're sure that's the final terrain. But trying to reorganize everything because you needed a mask and make it actually fit so it's intuitive when you come back to it, or even to just look at it a couple minutes later. Yeah, believe me. Expose everything first, delete stuff after. Even if you think you won't need it, it's much easier and better and cleaner and neater for everyone to have it already and not need it later on in the graph. Plus, when you're experimenting, you'll have more nodes to experiment with. So even in just the idea stage, having as many things that look like they will work as possible, rather than thinking, oh, I don't need it now, is going to save you so much time, effort, and also make things look better. So I'm just going to move everything up here. And this is how I organized all the different connections and how I organized the route nodes and the outputs and my exports. So as you can see, I'm just doing the usual clamp that does nothing to it, then effects that might have something on it, to a route node, which I've named exactly to the same as the original output that I'm making a portal for. So as you can see, thermal wear, fractal terrace layers, wizard wear, deposit, flow, erosion wear, deposit, flow, snowfall, snow, snowfall, hard, and the other one. Oh, I need to reorganize these. It's a good way to do this. Let's do it this way using control left click, move these down, select all of these, and I'll put these up to here. Combine there. X there. Oh my god. Okay, do clamp, put combine here. That looks terrible. There we go. Okay, We'll put this up here. Let's... can we adjust this a bit? Probably. Let's just try to tidy up the wires. Yeah, okay, I like that. We'll put these back. Okay, so the next thing, after we've gotten all the masks that have already been processed for us, what we need to then do is find nodes that will make masks from data that we have, but we don't have that as mask information. I explained that really badly, I'll just show you. So if we take the blur, and let's do a flow. Now, flow is an interesting one. It's a map of where rain fell down the terrain. Where there was more rain collecting, the brighter. Where there's less, the darker. And I found, excuse me, got a dry throat. I found that if we go to a value of like 4%, which is faster, also gives us a more defined mask. Let's try going down to 3. Yeah, so as you can see here, if we go down to 2, let's see, let's go down to 1. 3 seems to be the sweet spot. So if you look at the original value, got what looks like absolute white, which isn't good. We don't want big blobs of textures or big blobs of color. We want nice, natural, noisy, interweaving, overlaying, and just generally not flat blobs of textures and color. So 20, let's put it back to 3. The exact value you will find looks best will differ from terrain to terrain. And once you've found that, what looks like the best, then you're going to increase the quality from 1 to 4, which in this case, with a 2K terrain, divide 2K by 4, we get 512. The flow node is only outputting a 512 by 512 amount of detail in our 2K by 2K. So if we put it down to 1 to 1, we increase the detail a lot, as you can see. Let's go through each stage. So that's at a quarter of the detail. That's at a third of the detail. This is at half of the detail. And this is at the exact same detail. We could probably get away with half, but that's only with one of these checked. Let's click all of these, except the 2x simulation, that's too heavy. And let's go through this again. And don't worry if it looks like it's too much. We can take each of these, the primary as its own, the secondary as its own, the tertiary as its own, the quaternary as its own. But in just the preview with flow, I'm tired, sorry, my English isn't working out too well. We can take each of them. You might be wondering, where's the quaternary? This really annoyed me. Just a whole, why would you hide it? Because it's actually there, just we don't see it in the UI. So we've got the output, which is all of them, but we can also access the primary. Oh, I'm so tired, but I want to do this. We can also access the secondary. We can also access the tertiary. What about the quaternary that we've enabled? Where is that? How do we get to it? You drag onto the node itself, it pops up here. That really pissed me off, finding that. Just why would you have a really important part, in my case, our case, these wild terrains, the most important part of the flow node hidden away? You might as well have on some esoteric hotkey like it's Blender. Okay, I'm starting to complain. Let's not complain. Let's be constructive. Quad spinner, please don't hide any of these outputs. Make them all visible. Or at least make it an option if we hit F11, then hide them. But not when we actually want to use things. Which is everyone. If something's hidden, how are we meant to know it's hidden and not just doesn't exist? Right? Total pain. So we will take the primary. Because as you can see, it's just the different aspects of it the main output is all of them overlaid, each of these layers. Whereas we can get each individual layer, as we can see here. Let's do that again with the secondary. Let's do that again with the tertiary. Zoom out a bit so you can see the difference between them. Do another clamp, and we do that thing which really annoys me. And I don't know who decided that was a good idea. Probably a limitation, I guess. The quaternary. So now we can see all of the 4 different texture maps, or, well, flow masks, without them being overlaid on top of each other. Let's shrink this. Let's zoom out here. Let's shrink these with F11. Zoom out a bit. Let's go back to north. So this is the primary mask. That's the secondary. That's the tertiary. And that's the quaternary. Each of these can be used for different things. So if it were me, I would subtract the tertiary from the quaternary to get nice dirt placement, and then I would distort it with displacement and warp to get a very natural breakup of the big blobs of dirt and grass and gravel. The tertiary I would probably use for the gravel mask after subtracting it from the quaternary from it. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of that going on. Whereas, actually maybe this would be dirt. We use that for gravel. Oh, I don't know at the moment, but it's just an idea. And for this would be good for making rivers, as in, not so much rivers, but the textures for rivers would usually be dirt, maybe gravel, maybe some mossy texture. And this would be a good way to guide it. So of course you can just use the river node for that. But it's interesting, we'll keep it. Mine only use it to darken that part of the terrain. The primary looks a bit useless, but what we can do, if we were to do this after the fact, rather than using a texture node, which I never use, which is this one, let me just plug in just to show what it is. Texture node includes a lot of different texture nodes. I explained that so badly. The texture node includes a lot of other mask generating nodes, and you don't get much control at all. You just don't. And if you were to try to brighten a terrain by this, or darken a terrain, you can, it's too generalized, it's all in once. Probably split it, but that's a pain. And I'd much rather have the finer control of each data node. So we have our flow, we have our snowfall, subtract a bit, which I really want to see how this looks. Actually, I'm pretty hyped for that. The hard, snow, the erosion flow, the erosion deposit, erosion wear. We have all of these individual and different masks from different parts of the graph free for us to work with. We don't have to use some general thing that will never be as detailed as a specific one, and then splitting that up as best as we can, which is never going to be as perfect as just having the whole thing isolated already earlier on in the graph. So yeah, don't use textures. I mean, I guess you could if you're just doing vertex colors and not brightening or darkening, but I don't really see any way to actually use it and make it look good. So let's see. We have our height here. Oh yeah, that's our actual final terrain. We'll put that here. Put these here. My throat's really dry. Anyway, I'll put this probably, let's see, how should we do it? Let's put that here, just below everything. We'll put the flow node just around here. And we will, actually, let me see. I've already got my flow node here. See this? Well, this is how we're going to make it look. All the different outputs, including the hidden one there, the quaternary, the clamp, and then effects with nothing on it at the moment, and then a route node to actually make use of it. And I should probably make portals. Let's do that. Make portal, make portal, make portal, make portal, make portal. And let's see, where can I place this? That looks good. Here, maybe? Here? That looks like the best way, so we keep in the big column. You can see how I've done it. I'm very much in favor of using columns. Oh, I might need to get a cup of water in a sec for all this, because it looks so much tighter than having all spread horizontally, which then descends and goes back to the beginning. A bit of that is fine, but only using that will never look good. And I do a bit of row, as you can see here. I've got my columns in rows. That's a lot tidier. So we got our... Oh geez, give me a second, I'm back in a moment. Oh, I need to get some more. My hair's trapped in my headset. One sec. Oh, it's hot in here. Okay, I'm back. So, we figured out how to get our different masks from earlier on in the chain, but only ones which will look good. And you can just tell at a glance by how close it is to the terrain itself. The more divergent it is, the less useful it is, because if you're trying to get rock with dirt, which is now being put in a different place from the different nodes, it's going to look buggy, it's going to look terrible. So don't waste your time with that. Oh, geez, right, okay. So now that we got all of these outputs, let's start actually making some textures. Well, texture images, which we'll export and then load into another project. Because you can just make one big project with multiple graphs, but I don't recommend it. Because Gaea just can't handle more than, I think around 150 is when things start to really slow down and start to get buggy. And it takes so much longer and so much more RAM to do one big graph, one big project rather, than multiple smaller projects. And yeah, that's another reason why we want to export as much of everything as we possibly can early on. So if we don't need it later on, great. But if we don't have it and we need it or want it, then we have to reload the original project and then try and figure out which one we want, then export that, then re-import it, and hope it didn't change, because none of this is deterministic. I mean, you do have deterministic, but then it runs on a single thread, which is extremely, super, absolutely, soul-crushingly slow. So we won't do that. Let's export everything in one go at the same time. Okay, let's see. Is it marked for export? This isn't. So use marked for export to actually export a node into an image file. It sounds possibly complex, but it isn't. Just make sure that one's, yeah, and that one. But this one, is this marked for export? Yeah. This one marked for export. Yeah. Fortunately, the orange light doesn't really overlay it, except for when it does. What? Why do these ones not have it overlaid? Even though they literally are marked for export, but that one does. What? What if I... What? Okay, that's a bug. Let's see, do I have this marked for export? Yeah, that one, yeah. That's probably a better way to do it. If it has an orange light at the bottom right, it's marked for export. What about these? What's this? Did I lose the output? I must have. Yeah. Oh yeah, and this is a quick recap. When you've got your terrain, having a height and a slope and an invert on the slope allows you to see just where everything is. Ah, frick, close. Eh? Well, that's not good. Let's save. Eh. Cancel, I'm too lazy. Let's just load it back up and hope we don't have to rebuild everything. Oh boy, we do have to rebuild everything. Let's just do a wee fly around and nog it. Just see if anything gets overloaded then while that's all happening. In fact, I remember making a Durotar terrain. That was cool. Let's see if we can find any other biomes that might be cool to do later. Because I've currently tried my hand at doing the Barrens so many times. Durotar a couple times. We're doing Westfall here. Even did Mulgore. That one burnt me out, but that was cool. Now we're doing what? Did I already mention Westfall? Probably. Let's see what else we're trying to do. Let's get that. I can tell when it's finished because usually my computer starts to speed up. Like now. Cool. Okay, let's save and smart to export. Yeah, it is good. And I'll just plonk this to here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bake. And the reason we want to do that is because we want a consistent output that's deterministic. We can't do that if we process everything again every time. But if we bake it, we can, because we've just saved the image as well. So to do this, and this is when having the clamp and effects, mainly the clamp, but the effects as well is handy just in case. But the clamp is basically a dummy. So if we bake, the clamp might bake as well, but the effects won't, and neither will the output, the route nodes. That means we can reuse them in a graph if need be, or if we actually want to just do one project with multiple graphs. Believe me, they save so much time. Just having these little sacrificial clamp nodes. Yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out and work around just it breaking all the time, and that was it. Let's get rid of the flow. And rid of these, don't delete the, of course it's connection, my god. Okay. And you'll be wondering why actually I have another route node for the blur. It's because we're going to bake the blur, and we won't be able to use it for anything unless we unbake it again. But if we just have some dummy nodes, some sacrificial clamps, and that might get baked, it might not, but the height definitely won't with two nodes preceding it. That means we can reuse it again. We also get the benefit of baking, because these are just dummy nodes that don't do anything, so they don't take up any CPU time. Maybe a bit of RAM, but I mean, negligible compared to just having to screw around with baking and unbaking. So, how do we bake? There's a bake icon here, it's just a flame. Pick our resolution. We want to do 2048 by 2048 first, and then we're going to export all these files at 8192. And the reason why we want a 2K bake, and we're going to do a build with all these things at 2K, then again at 8K, is that Gaea has some upscale filter that's put in that's better than just resizing the image in Photoshop or GIMP. And we want to take advantage of that without having to bake it all at 8K. Because if you do, the terrain at 8K is going to be so different, and the data created from it, and what we see at 2K. Because the thing is, and this is a pet peeve in Gaea for me, but it may be fixed, hopefully soon, in Gaea 2 with God Mode and Glue. It's the features they call for having multiple terrains, like physical terrains put next to each other. In Gaea 1, you only have this. Right, that's it, these 4 squares. If you increase the res, you increase the detail in that same 4x4 squares. If you lower the resolution, you lower the detail. We don't do anything to the actual visual size of it. We've got all these grids, we can't use them, which is just a bit sad. Wall Machine 2 you can, maybe Houdini. I think I asked some guy about it, Pete in the Discord, but I haven't read the response if he's made one yet. And Gaea 2 with Glue, Team Terrains, God Mode, whatever else it's called. These different features that allow us to like take a terrain and move it about with other ones. That's going to be so cool. But oh yeah, let's save that. Save as Westfall. Okay, let's do the bake. And it'll be done when it's done. Does it even have a process showing? No. Okay. Oh, it's already done. That's cool. So you can see here, by making sure we have a clamp and then effects for our route, if we had a, I can't remember if it's been fixed or not, probably not, but if we just had a direct, one of these yellow utility nodes hooked to it, to a bake node, causes a crash when you click on it, or try to use this portal or something like that. So having these dummy nodes in front, the clamp is literally the dummy node, the effects we actually use in some of them, connected to the utility route node. Yeah, we avoid the bug. As we can see here, I click on it. Cool. So now that we've baked, let's do a build of all of these. And for these intermediary images, for ones we're going to reuse in another Gaea project, use TIFF, it's 32-bit. And PNG, just plain one there without the 8, is 16-bit. Then just PNG 8. Whereas TIFF is pure 16-bit and it's lossless. Good. 16-bit, 32-bit. TIFF is lossless 32-bit, which is what we want because it's all the same data that we see here in our original project. So let's output those at 2K first, which will just be the preview build. And we'll rename the folder that it's started in. I think because we baked it. All we're just doing is processing these things. Cool. Let's go out of here. I did it earlier, but we'll get rid of those because they'll always be slightly different each time. So we'll rename this Westfall 2K. And now we'll do a build at 8K. And this is going to take a long time. An ungodly long time. In fact, let's have a look at what my CPU is doing. Performance, memory. My 5800X 3D is pegged at 100%. Christ. What's my memory looking? Yes, my 64 gigabytes is going to look pretty paltry soon. And I've seen Gaea use even like 16 cores with 32 threads. I've got a Broadwell on my little streaming server thingy PC. Used it at 100% the whole time this wee little test bench project I made. So if you've got a 5950X, Gaea's going to love it. If you've got an Epic, odds are Gaea's going to love it. How much, I don't know, diminishing returns, but man, this makes me long for Gaea 2. Gaea 2 is so much faster and more optimized. And also Gaea 2 has GPU processing. So if you've got an AMD card, probably, I think it needs to be RDNA 2 and RDNA 3, the latest two generations of graphics cards, you get GPU acceleration in Gaea 2. For NVIDIA, probably just even the GTX 1000 series, like the 1080 Ti, 1060, will run fine because it's CUDA. Whereas AMD doesn't really backport it to the older generations. Why? Yeah, that's a question for Lisa Su. But it is what it is. It's because of that I'm looking at an NVIDIA graphics card for doing this, because especially with larger terrains, even with GPU acceleration, you're going to see that VRAM capped out, and then it's just going to switch back to using the CPU. So I've been looking at the GTX 3060s that come in 12 gigabytes, because they're lower power than the 1080 Ti's, which I think are 11 gigabytes. That's it. That's literally the only valid option, where you can pay like $250 if you get it used with 12 gigabytes of RAM. Because if you want more than 8 gigabyte, you're going to have to go for, I think it's the 4060 Ti, has a 16 gigabyte model. And that's for the worst ones, like the MSI Ventus, $450 in USD. It's literally 1-to-1 with UK prices here in pounds. So you can pay 250 or 450 just for a bit more RAM. That's too much. I can't afford that. Costs more than my license for Gaea. Well, Gaea 2, I think. Which I paid 300 for, I think. Yeah, 300, even with a 30% discount. So it feels weird getting a graphics card that costs more than the awesome software I'm trying to use it on. Yeah, it's not even processing all of these. Is it? Wait, maybe I'm not seeing this right. Oh yeah, okay. It's doing these in chains by the looks of it. Oop. Sweet, cool. And this should be 8K? Yeah, hell yeah. Let's see how big these are in total. How much RAM did that use? Let's see, memory. I think it went to about like 25 gigabytes used. And that is generally how it's going to be for each project we make. One for each splat map channel and one for each vertex color map. It's only one, but still. Whereas if we all did it in one graph, I've seen one project, I've run out of memory with 64 gigabytes trying to do it all in one project. Do not recommend it. It's too slow, it's too inefficient. Like even just Gaea, the editor, bugs out. So let's do Westfall, 18K. 80, got it. It's 8K. Okay, so we'll save that. And now let's make a new project. Save it. And this will be the last thing I do, is just showing how we import it and how we use the portals. I showed off the portals here of making them, but we're actually going to use them in this next project. Wait for this to bake. Well, hopefully my mic hasn't been dropping out the whole time. Jeez, that mod mic was just trash. I paid $40 for it way back when. Well, it must have been like 2016, maybe. Oh Christ, I don't even want to think about it when I got my mod mic for. Let's see, so we'll do a new one. Just save it as Westfall. It's called Splat Map Rock. Now let's see, how do we actually import our files? Well, there's a file node. Kind of self-explanatory. Let's put this to 2K. Wait, because we're doing texture map, it's going to be a lot slower, but we'll do it 4K. And let's see, file properties, browse. Wow, is it build? Where does it put it again? Gaea builds. Oh my Christ. Where in my documents? Yeah, I did. I'll move these about later. No, I'll just move them now. Screw it. I'll take these by going to Windows Explorer, go to Westfall. Let's take these. It's much better to have your builds in the same folder as your projects, but I just have to remember where it is. Let's see. Can I copy that? Copy. There we go. Get rid of that. Does that work? Oh hell yeah! I'm so smart. Ah frick. No, I'm not. Oh my god! Let's pause here real fast. Let's see. What did it show? Yeah. Right, what am I doing? Let's see. Oh god, I'm totally zonked. I'm so tired. Let's see, documents, Gaea. I'm not trying to be here. I'm trying to be in... Oh, yeah, we are. Wait. I'm so tired. Oh, I used to do these at the worst times. Paste that. Okay, let's see. File. Browse for our nodes. So we want our terrain, which is height. I just named it height. And we will do forced linear gamma and high quality scaling. There we go. Let's rename this graph imports. And let's do a route. Name it height. Make portal. Okay, and let's make another graph. Probably call it after this. I'm so tired. New graph. Call this one splat map rock. We'll do a route. Because we made the portal, well look, we know exactly which one it is. We'll do a clamp. Clamp is my favorite dummy node. It's probably a better one for us, but I like it. It's the first one I found. Now we've just imported our terrain into a 4K preview. And that's pretty damn cool. Let's have a look at one of the other ones. So you're going to be doing a lot of importing. Let's see, erosion deposit. In fact, we want to get the 8K version. That's important because we're actually going to be building the splat map at 8K. Because WoW supports 8K splat maps for 2K terrain. Each splat map is 4 times the resolution in each direction. So, like, I don't know, 16 times. So each terrain slice is 256 by 256. And the splat map for that slice is 1024 by 1024. Let's see, Westfall, 8K, the deposit. Nope, right, there we go. We'll name that one, what was it? Erosion deposit. We'll make that portal 2. Believe me, having just one node that you change the portal to just saves so much effort, and I'll explain why. Because if you have, say, a bunch of nodes, we'll just use a couple clamp nodes for this, right? And they've all using just one, but we want to switch it. It's taking a moment because 4K is slow on my 5800X 3D. Take erosion deposit, right? And then if we want to change it to the height node, then we've got to do this for each of them. Oh, but what if we want to switch it back, you might say? Exactly, you have to change it all over again. Whereas if I just have a route node connected to it, rather than having to change this soul destroying, I've only done 2 and I'm doing 3. Only makes me want to just, never mind. So, the route, the erosion deposit, if we wanted to change those, we just linked here. We can change all of them by just changing the route node. And oh look, they're all different. So believe me, save so much pain, save so much time, so much faff. Okay, so that's just showing off how to export images, reuse them in another project, how to do portals, how to avoid some bugs, and why we're doing this. Okay, I'm gonna go, probably go sleep now. See if the mic picked up okay, and hopefully it sounds pretty good. Alright, until next time. Bye.